What's up with it? Alright guys, this is going to be another Marksman Hunter PvP guide with a slight variation to the spec of what I was running this last time. Now I am going to have some PvP kind of gameplay commentary videos that I'm going to upload here in the near future, as well as some stuff regarding my UI, and then some stuff regarding arenas and things like that, some other specifics, and potentially a kiting guide as well regarding marksman hunters. But that being said, I wanted to kind of go into, this will be a nice little short, sweet video as far as the setup that I'm running and kind of how it works and the math behind it and just kind of the general gist of the play style. So this is a pretty straightforward build if you look at any of the PvE type stuff, like on the Warcraft logs website regarding the raid content, stuff like that. This is what marksman hunters are running for the most part. Basically synergizing careful aim, steady focus, and lethal shots together. Now, regarding the Azurite traits for PvP, there's two that I'm stacking. Steady aim being one of them, and arcane flurry being the other. Now, arcane flurry, quick kind of like pause on this, got an adjustment to how the Azurite trait functions in this last patch 3 or 4 days ago. Now, the damage has been reduced on the buff, but the duration of the buff has increased from 3 seconds up to 10 seconds. Basically, what this means is that you can have almost 100% uptime on this buff, allowing you to basically just have a lot more consistent damage output from your arcane shot, which is really helpful in PvP, because there's a lot of times where you're trying to kite or whatever, and you don't really have any other alternative to spending your focus besides just kind of running around and casting arcane shots, right? So for that reason, having this buff that's going to constantly increase your arcane shot damage is very, very valuable in PvP. You don't get nearly as much value out of it in PvE situations, but in PvP it's very good. Not to mention that it also stacks with precise shots. So let's see, we'll get 2 stacks up here, which is increasing our damage by 478. You can see then if I hit one arcane shot, it's hitting for 12,000. It's going to crit for 24. Okay, now if I go ahead and take this buff off, do the same thing, it's hitting for 10,500, critting for 22,600, right? So the damage is actually very valuable because it scales directly into your normal kit, right? Especially in PvP. Your burst windows are going to be more and more valuable with that trait. Now, I do think that running full steady aim is probably the more optimal of the options. However, at this point in the expansion, it's not like we all have the same eye level gear and can just pick and choose between what Azurite traits we want. So I just wanted to also kind of explain and showcase that Arcane Flurry is a viable option as well for this PvP setup. Now, back over to the talents. Basically, the gameplay is going to go like this. You're going to basically burn through your focus bar as best you can with your arcane shot and your aim shots. Once you start getting low, you're going to then build back with ideally 5 consecutive steady shots, giving you 5 stacks of steady aim on the target, as well as more than likely going to give you a proc of lethal shots, guaranteeing a critical strike on your next aim shot. So that's basically what you're doing, is that every time you can burn through your focus bar, you're basically prepping for a big burst window. So on the contrary build of Streamline and Double Tap, which I would argue is like the more meta build people are running, the downside of that is that your damage is contingent on a 1-minute cooldown being double tap and rapid fire, which when you're having to cast rapid fire, it's a long channel. So you can get feared during that, you can get incapacitated during that, you can get stunned. All kinds of stuff can interrupt it. So you can lose a huge chunk of your damage if teams are looking out for basically whenever you're casting your double tap and rapid fire, right? So for that reason, I've just found like anytime you get shut down with that setup, it just feels bad. It's just like, it's kind of frustrating and it's just not ideal in PvP situations, really, in my opinion. Definitely some amount of viability with that build. I just personally don't like it as much. So, again, let me kind of go through that rotation here. You're going to go ahead and cast Aim Shot, Arcane Shot. We got a proc there of our lock and load. Arcane Shot into another Aim Shot, into Arcane Shot, into Arcane Shot. Now we have out of focus, right? So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we did not get a proc of our lock and load, which is unfortunate, but we are going to go ahead, aim shot into arcane shot. We have nothing else as a spender. I'm going to imagine like Murder of Crows isn't there. We do have enough for our aim shot, so I'm going to go ahead and cast steady shot straight out of that. 4, 5. We're going to use our stack of our precise shots. Then we're going to follow that with an aim shot into arcane shot. And you see that burst. Now, given this is a training dummy, right? So it's not going to scale exactly, but what that was, that 109,000 was an aim shot crit stacked with 5 stacks of steady aim, also getting a careful aim proc. So what happens is that, you know, if I have 5 stacks of steady aim because I have 2 of my pieces have that trait on it, it ends up being 9,500 bonus damage on my next aim shot. So for ease of math, let's round up and say it's 10,000 damage. If I get a stack of lethal shots like I did here, it's a guaranteed crit. If it targets above 80% or below 20% chance, below 20% health, there's a 50-50 chance that that's also going to do another 100% damage. So crit is reduced in PvP, so it's not going to be hitting as hard as it is on this target dummy, but that's the general gist of this playstyle, which is, if you see people running this in PvE, it's the very same thing. A lot of raid bosses, that 20% window is the most important, right? Because if you're in that last 20%, a lot of boss fights, that's when you're using your bloodlust. You really need to maximize your damage in those execute windows. Same goes for PvP, right? Not only that, it's just a very, very bursty playstyle, right? So if we're able to keep up 2 stacks of this, the Arcane Flurry buff, we're going to go through here. I'll cast one more aim shot. I'm going to go into an arcane shot out of that, and I'm going to do 5 stacks of my steady shot. Now, lethal shots has a 25% chance to proc, and you're casting 5 steady shots in a row. So you basically have a 125% chance that you're going to get a stack of lethal shots, mathematically, right? It's not going to happen every time, but it is important to know that basically trying to get 5 stacks up to get both your steady aim procs as well as more than likely getting a stack of lethal shots, guaranteeing you this basically amplified crit of an aim shot out of that window. Now, the other thing that's worth mentioning is that even though I do have this focus the focus bar down here on the bottom of my weak auras, I actually look at this window a lot. Main reason being is you can see there when I'm casting my aim shot, if it's at 75, it's telling you the amount of, I have percentages enabled, but you have 100 focus, so it's the same thing, but it's telling you the amount of energy you have coming out of the aim shot, right? So that's really important for a couple reasons. One, it basically is going to tell you what your next cast should be, and 2, it allows you to set up your positioning based on what that next cast is going to be. So what I'm going to do here is I'll go ahead and burn through so you can kind of see. Basically, if I'm going to be at 15 focus or higher after that aim shot cast, I'm going to go ahead and assume that I'm going to cast an arcane shot. This, I'm going to be below 15 energy, so I'm starting my steady shot cast right away so that I'm ready for that. And then coming out of my 5 stacks, I don't need to cast aim shot as my next cast. You just don't want to disrupt those steady shot casts because it will drop the steady focus buff. So there's nothing wrong with, in this situation, right, I'm going to go down to 0 focus. I do have a stack of aim shot. I'm going to get my 5 stacks of my steady aim up. Then I'm going to cast my aim shot into an arcane shot. I have 2 procs, so I'm going to go ahead and use another one into an aim shot. Now I'm going to have no focus for my arcane shot. So I'm going to hit my 5 stacks again. Rather than opening with the aim shot this time, I'm going to go open with my arcane shot to consume that stack, then into an aim shot, then into an arcane shot, into an arcane shot to burn down my focus so that I'm not capping on any focus, right? Now also in your opener, you can be casting Murder Crows. You can also, even if you don't have a proc and you start getting up, so for example, if I'm casting Steady Shot and I'm getting up to above 100%, I'll go ahead and cast an arcane shot anyway right out of that so that my focus is generating up because it's basically free for all intents and purposes. Same kind of thing, back into aim shot, I'm into an arcane shot, into an arcane shot. I got a free aim shot, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. Then I'm going to get 5 stacks of my steady aim up again. Then I'm going to use both of my stacks of my precise shots into another aim shot, arcane shot, arcane shot. Same thing, go back up, into an aim shot. Oops, one more there. Into an aim shot that's going to crit. And you see 109,000 damage, and I'm getting that 12,000 damage non-crit from my arcane shot because I have that arcane flurry buff up, right? So in PvP, like I said, it is reduced, but very, very likely, very regularly, you're getting 30, 40, 50,000 damage bursts between your aim shot and arcane shot, both hitting at the same time, both being amplified, and your arcane being a guaranteed crit. Your aim shot being a guaranteed crit. So that's it for this one. Hopefully that rotation and that kind of gameplay makes sense to you guys. Again, the biggest value is that while you're doing that prep between your arcane shots and your steady shots, you have complete mobility. It is worth mentioning that, and I'll go over this more in that kiting guide I was talking about, but you can go ahead, cast disengage, and then start casting any of these channels, whether it be rapid fire, whether it be your steady shots. So you still have that mobility that you can use kind of at your disposal. Another thing worth mentioning in this is that your steady focus will fall off with certain shots. Now, one thing worth noting is it does not fall off with bursting shot, but it does fall off with murder at crows. I don't know why. It makes absolutely no sense. But that's just a couple things worth noting. It will fall off also with your scatter shot if you do that, as well as if you interrupt, if you use your concussive shot. So just be aware of the synergies with your abilities in that buff, because you really want to make sure that, while it is important to interrupt and do things like that, you need to be able to quickly weigh those options as far as canceling the buff and reducing your setup time, right? It's going to make that setup time a little bit longer if you end up doing that versus the value of an interrupt or scatter or whatever during that time, or if you're able to do it after one or two more casts, right? So anyway, hopefully that makes sense. I will be posting some more videos with this build. I've been having a lot of fun and success with this so far. So I'm just going to keep practicing it and posting some more content, hopefully for you guys to enjoy. Give me your feedback. Let me know if you guys are running this setup or something similar, or what you guys are doing different. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much for tuning in.